All right, we'll declare the meeting open at, by that clock, 2:34 on Sunday, May the 4th, 1997. Now, Tracy has been collecting names on a thing, so we'll know who's present later. In terms of the board of the MRA, there's Public Officer Detlef Lamp, myself, Damien Cognado, President, Jim Cutts, the Vice President, Gordon Hurst, the Membership Secretary. Carla Maitland's not here. She was going to try. I saw her on Friday, but she's in hospital after a bike crash, so she's fairly seriously injured. And can't, obviously, hasn't been able to make it today. Tracy, how many members roughly are here? In excess of 40 members present, so we have a quorum. All right, we've Tracy and Deborah Nelson are looking at keeping minutes. I'm not sure which one's doing what, but that's happening, and as usual we're recording the meeting so that everything goes down. So we've called for we've got a quorum, that's correct. I'd like to introduce to you David Stagg. He's the MRA legal advisor, and if no one has a problem with it, I'm going to delegate the chairmanship of the meeting to David.
Thank you, Damien. As Damien's introduced, my name is David Stagg. I'm a solicitor. Many of you possibly know me already. Damien has asked me to come along and chair this meeting because, as you are all aware, there are some fairly important things to be considered by this quarterly general meeting. I intend to be impartial. I will follow normal meeting procedure. I will not allow any personal attacks or bad language. Although what we are going to talk about today is very important for the future of the MRA, it can be done in a civilised manner, and I will not allow the debate to degenerate into a slanging match, and I want that to be perfectly clear. Anybody who breaches that rule will be asked to leave the meeting. All questions and motions are to be addressed through the chair, that's through me. I will allow each speaker who wants to speak for or against a motion 2 minutes, and will allow a further minute if that person wants to speak any further, and I think that what they're saying is in the interests of all the members. If it's not, I'll call them short. We are all here, I believe, because we want the MRA to prosper and to grow. It is apparent that there's a serious division within the board as to what course the MRA should take, and the members here today and the proxies represented here today will decide those issues. Do we have any apologies apart from Carla Maitland? Do we have any questions to me?
Is there an agenda available at all?
There is a simple agenda. The Secretary's responsibility is normally to produce an agenda, but because Carla is obviously incapacitated in hospital, that's not possible. The notice of meeting today is effectively the notices that were published in the deciding factor, which, as far as I can see, constitute an effective notice of meeting, although the Constitution itself doesn't require that. If anybody wishes to challenge my appointment as an impartial chairman, you can do that and it will be voted on. I'll hand it back. If you want to do that, Damien will then put it to a vote as the default chairman.
David, the Mraa accountant, John McNabb, is on his way in. He will be here shortly. Also, the treasurer is present at the meeting.
Okay, are there any further comments or questions before we proceed? I don't believe that there are any...
All right, Tracy and Deborah Nelson are looking at keeping minutes. I'm not sure which one's doing what, but that's happening, and as usual we're recording the meeting so that everything goes down. So we've called for we've got a quorum, that's correct. I'd like to introduce to you David Stagg. He's the Mraa legal advisor, and if no one has a problem with it, I'm going to delegate the chairmanship of the meeting to David.
Thank you, Damien. As Damien's introduced, my name is David Stagg. I'm a solicitor. Many of you possibly know me already. Damien has asked me to come along and chair this meeting because, as you are all aware, there are some fairly important things to be considered by this quarterly general meeting. I intend to be impartial. I will follow normal meeting procedure. I will not allow any personal attacks or bad language. Although what we are going to talk about today is very important for the future of the Mraa, it can be done in a civilised manner, and I will not allow the debate to degenerate into a slanging match. I want that to be perfectly clear. Anybody who breaches that rule will be asked to leave the meeting. All questions and motions are to be addressed through the chair, that's through me. I will allow each speaker who wants to speak for or against a motion 2 minutes, and will allow a further minute if that person wants to speak any further. And I think that what they're saying is in the interests of all of the members. If it's not, I'll call them short. We are all here, I believe, because we want the Mraa to prosper and to grow. It is apparent that there's a serious division within the board as to what course the Mraa should take, and the members here today and the proxies represented here today will decide those issues. Do we have any apologies? No, from Carl Mate. Do we have any questions to me?
Is there an agenda available at all?
There is a simple agenda. The Secretary's responsibility is normally to produce an agenda, but because Carla is obviously incapacitated in hospital, that's not possible. The notice of meeting today is effectively the notices that were published in the deciding factor, which, as far as I can see, constitute an effective notice of meeting, although the Constitution itself doesn't require that. If anybody wishes to challenge my appointment as an impartial chairman, you can do that and it will be voted on. I'll hand it back. If you want to do that, Damien will then put it to a vote as the default chairman.
David, the Mraa accountant, John McNabb, is on his way in. He will be here shortly. Also, the treasurer is present at the meeting.
Okay, are there any further comments or questions before we proceed? I don't believe that there are any minutes of any previous quarterly meeting available. I believe most quarterly meetings have not reached a quorum, and that there are no minutes. If anybody's got anything to gather that, please speak now. No. I now call on Damien Cotignato to present a President's report.
Okay. Firstly, I'd like to thank you all for coming. Obviously, there's a reason you're here more than usual, since we haven't had a quorum for the last 3 general meetings. I may be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it was the last 3. And certainly numbers have not been up like this, which means that you people cared enough to come out and be here. And I'm assuming that what you're caring about is the future of your association. There were a further 43 people who put in proxy votes. These have been done legally according to the Constitution. And if anyone wants to have a look, there's spare copies of the Constitution there, current vote. So they'll be handed out. Before I go on with the report, I should make a note that at the last board meeting of the association here, the Treasurer, Kingsland McNabb, handed in a resignation effective immediately. Today he has come along, and Jim has informed me, that's the Vice President, that he hasn't resigned, that it was done after the meeting closed, and so I guess that's another one you people are going to have to decide, but I didn't know there were in the Constitution any specific things you could only resign during the committee meeting. A resignation in writing is a resignation in writing. The problem we have is that the board of the association is divided into 2 groups or factions. The aims of the 2 groups aren't compatible, and the MRA can't go on unless the board can function together. So one way or another, today has got to decide what direction the future of this association is going to take. And my group, which consists of people that are continuously in here working for the association, doing the memberships, and allowing me time to represent you at a government level, want the association to continue to work and grow through this place. In the past, we've seen that only when the MRA has a focus or a headquarters has it gone ahead. When its functions are devolved out into small offices like in Northcote or people's homes, it doesn't prosper. And what we're doing here is we're not only promoting the association and fighting for riders' rights as never before, but we're also creating jobs in a small way. This week, to give you an idea of what happened through this office this week, we put a submission to the parliamentary inquiry into motorcycle safety review. This is part of it. It's certainly available for any of you to read. The review is to that government document, and we got that in. It was late, but I had a letter from to the review committee, so that was okay. We had a front page article in the South Yarra Leader arguing that the City of Melbourne should be putting in more money to motorcycling, because they're putting in $271,000 this year to bicycling, and we defended once again footpath parking. In State Parliament on Thursday, wire rope barriers were raised, and the MRA was mentioned, and we were able to follow that up with journalists because we were here and the journalists could ring us direct at the time. Also had a meeting to ensure that the column I write for Royal Auto keeps going, and of course that's good for MRA because it promotes motorcycling and quite often directly promotes the association. We've also tentatively secured, depending on his appointments at that time of year, Nick Doohan to lead the toy run this year, and we've secured the Swanston Walk for this assembly area. In recent weeks we've represented you at the Motorcycle Safety Forum, where I attacked the TAC for its television campaign. We moved a step closer to forcing councils and shires to adopt policies and facilities to cater for off-road riders. We've pushed the Education Department to adopt a written road safety policy that's positive to motorcycles. The previous one was very negative. I've also represented you at the next committee up, which is the Road Safety Reference Group at Vic Roads, and followed those issues through. We've lobbied the Minister to give much more power to the Motorcycle Safety Forum by upgrading it to become the State Motorcycle Committee. At a federal level, I've stood down from the Fours Committee and made sure that Mraa still has a seat there, and that's currently filled by Jim Cutts, the Vice President. Last November, we, through here, put out a renewal because we were given to understand that the newsletter couldn't be put out at that time, and the renewal was posted, and that helped us with some of the problems with income over the January-February period. I had warned the board that that was a problem period, and I've known that from experience in years gone by. Unfortunately, the magazine went out a bit later, and there was a duplication of effort and extra spending. The December the 15th, we saw the biggest toy run ever, but unfortunately we failed to capitalise, and we only signed 3 members out of what the police estimated was 12,000 bikes. There was also a loss of equipment to the value of $530. We kept the headquarters open right through Christmas and the New Year's, excepting for Boxing Day and the other 2 public holidays. And on January 10th, I wrote the final cheque, which was $500 to Gordon Hurst, the membership secretary, to get rid of the last debts in arrears. Just ahead of a vote, I handed the chequebooks over to Kingsley McNabb, who was then treasurer, and as you've heard, it's handed in a resignation. You have to decide whether that's valid or not. After 5 months, the finances of this association have been out of my hands and controlled by the other side of the board, the other group. If you look at these people, they're good people, but they have a completely different idea as to where your association should go and how it should be run. It's my belief, and I'll speak for themselves, that they are going to present figures to you that claim that the association is not viable and this place should be closed. I really don't believe that. They don't come in here, they haven't been in here, so they haven't seen what we've seen, which is, if you look in that book, people from all over the world who will buy souvenirs like these Elizabeth Street stubby holders. We are here to sign members, and if you look in the membership paperwork here, as well as on the computer list, which we've generated today, you find that, I don't know, Shane will be able to tell you what's in the membership, but the vast majority are processed by this office here. In fact, we generate the funds that make it possible for the association to keep going. Because this headquarters was here, we were able to receive a very short notice invitation from Honda in January that I couldn't attend, but Shane and Joe and Adrian went to Phillip Island and attended a function for Mick Doohan. He signed 2 white Mraa t-shirts worth $25 each, and over the recent months we've raffled them, raising $400 extra for the association. In March, as a service to riders, the NMC, that's me, I'm the only director, it's just my business name, ran the motorcycle parking area at the Formula One Grand Prix at Albert Park. This was not done to promote a race in the park. It was done to give riders a safe place to park, and the MRAA gained excellent promotion for it, and this being there and behaving professionally has opened doors for the not only for the MRA with the Grand Prix Corporation, but for the Phillip Island GPs. Now I understand Detlef Lamps, the public officer, has some information on that. Perhaps he'll show you that later on. In April, I was awarded an Order of Australia medal, and that, I believe, I'm the first motorcyclist to get that for the kind of work I do. And it's a great honour, and it's already been used to open all doors for the association. In this period too, I've had meetings with Channel 10 and Honda, with Adrian Farrelly, to get the MRA logo on national television with the motorcycle and 500cc Grand Prix and Superbike telecasts with a road safety ad. This, of course, all this promotion costs the association, costs the members nothing. So if you want to tot up a dollar value for it, I'd be interested to hear it. Shane and Joe also attended a function to present a motorcyclist who's also an ex-member of the MRA with a wheelchair, and we raised about $8,000 over this counter through your headquarters. We also sold, I think, somewhere around $3,000 worth of tickets in the Triumph Travel. Currently, the windows of the headquarters here are being used to promote the historic Motorcycle Racing Club's winter meeting at the end of the month, and their members are very pleased that we're able to do that. We also had a window for the Classic Club, so the headquarters is not only good for MRA members themselves, but it can help and support people in other motorcycling clubs. Motorcyclists and would-be motorcyclists are coming here to find out about rider training, get legal advice, to get insurance advice, to find out about rallies, put up notices for stolen bikes, and a lot of other things. It just goes on and on. Two examples. Members walked in the door, I don't even know whether they're members. One with information here on uncovered loads. You've probably all been riding your bike behind a truck or a trailer with an uncovered load. That has now been taken by me to the Road Safety Reference Group and has been listed on a big seminar on trailers and trucks. Something is moving. Yesterday, another member came in and showed me this road hazard for motorcyclists and bicyclists in the Doveton area, I believe, and I'll be following that up with Dick Roads tomorrow. I'll leave those there for anyone who wants to have a look. This month we have started 2 people working here for pay, for wages, not full wages. Shane, who's supported by on-site motorcycle service, Mark Stewart over there, through the TAC. And Christina, who through the Salvation Army has received federal funds for 30 hours a week, and she's been working here for a week. Now, this costs the members nothing, and it's moving in the direction that my group wants to see this organisation go. This month we've been told, unfortunately, there'll be no more MRA newsletters, and we will have to cover that loss. And we also have had to get the cash flow of the association going again, because as you may have seen from a letter out there, the Vice President, after the resignation of the Treasurer, appointed himself, with the consent of other board members, the interim Treasurer, and that meant that there was no hope of us paying the landlord. So on advice I received, I opened a trust account, and we got 3 companies to sponsor a mailing, and we've mailed out renewal notices to all the to every member, and notices of this meeting to the members, and other functions like the toy run and so on, have all gone out, and they were sponsored by the BMC Corporation, who's a company that wanted to put a letter in about finance, 2 of the Phillip Island Grand Prix campsites, on-site motorcycles, and it was packed and posted with help from Dave Milligan, on-site motorcycles, myself and Swan Insurance. I'm going to leave out some of the things here because I can answer them later. I've written them down to give you my point of view and our faction's point of view if the other faction wasn't represented. It is represented, and so I will simply say that over the last 6 months or so, the group with the other point of view as to where we should be going and how we should be representing you has virtually boycotted this place, and that has meant a huge burden on me personally and on my team. We're really very tired. My term as president ends in August 1998. That's about 15 months away. And that time, I believe, will be best used to develop this place, to train people in lobbying, in all the things I've learned in 20 years, to teach them my contacts, to teach them how to handle the media and how to promote events and so on, and to develop jobs here, jobs through tourism, jobs through getting the motorcycle, the Mraa, to offer more, offer more services. This you might want to look at too. These are the British Motorcycle Federation's services to members, and this is the American Motorcycle Association services to members. They have things like Visa cards and so on, discounts, and that's the direction I'd like to see us going. We're never going to be as big as that because there's a bigger population, but we can be as good in a smaller way. Part of the heading in that direction is a business plan.
That's what the French Federation does.
George is one of our long-standing members, and as he's pointing out there, these are the French Federation's quality of their
Angry motorcyclists, which is the equivalent of the MRA.
So I'll put those there too. The business plan has been put together. I haven't put it together. It's been put together by business people. It's been looked at by David, our legal advisor. There's a copy here, and Mark has a copy over there. All of us believe that by running this place as a proper small business, we can give you services, we can serve the motorcycle community. Now, I am not prepared to continue battling with a divided board. These people have their own points of view and they believe they can justify them. I don't believe they can. I'm staking 20 years of making this organisation survive, of digging it out of debt as deep as $25,000 and of rebuilding membership lists. And while I was doing that, I ran a few big events you might have attended, and I've also represented you at rallies, in federal parliament, in state parliament, in court cases. In short, I'm saying for the next 15 months, if you and these 43 proxy votes here want me to, I will train people and continue with the work and taper off so that when I do stand down at the end of that time, I can perhaps be an advisor if I'm invited after that, but I can be sure that this organisation will go on for another 20 years. I can also tell you that I believe the great majority of the members would want this place run professionally and want this place to continue. I believe most of the members would want that, and I believe most of them don't know the crisis that we're in. As you've probably gathered, you've heard me talk before, I'm really upset by this whole thing, and basically I'm going to stand aside now and let the next report go on.
Thank you. I'm going to let Damien's report lie on the table because it's not really going to be much point asking a lot of questions at this stage of the game, but I'd invite Jim Cummins to make a comment as Vice President. Do you want to say something, Jim? I have we've got a question about whether Kingsley has in fact resigned as Treasurer or whether he hasn't resigned as Treasurer. I think there was a resignation. With you as soon as we find whether Kingsley's resignation is here or not. Look, in the meantime, while you're finding that, Jim, I think the best thing I can do is ask Jim Cutts, who is the Vice President and who has a different attitude and different point of view from Damien, to give Jim an opportunity to speak. So Jim is Vice President. I ask you to present your Vice President report.
Okay, there's two or three things to talk on. I'll make the first item fairly brief. My first item is the European trip that I've just returned from. A week and a half ago I went to Brussels to meet with European motorcyclist rights organisations and to attend a conference in Luxembourg that was sponsored by the FIM, the Federation International Motor. This is the people who run the Grand Prix and Superbike World Series and such like. Most of the European, or all of the European riders' rights organisations were there, and the majority of the American ones, and Australia was represented by myself, Greg Hurst from New South Wales, and Christina Van William from the AMC, or MRA. It was a very positive meeting. But before that, I spent some time in the European Parliament. I sat in Parliament and watched the multi-directive be passed. The multi-directive is a 12-point directive to European governments on motorcycle standards for the coming century. They've basically been ratcheted down to 80 decibel noise limits. They've had to wear anti-tampering, which means that certain owners are forbidden to work on their own bikes, other than to change the oil, adjust the chain, and such like. Subsequent to that, I had a meeting with a gentleman called Alan Donnelly, a member of the European Parliament and also chairman of the Road Interusers, the United Nations Road Interusers Group, I think it's called. That gentleman stated quite categorically that European standards will be adopted by the United Nations and will form the basis of global harmonisation of rules. So we are looking at wearing in the next 5 years, or the first 5 years of the new century, the same sort of draconian standards that the Europeans have just worn. There's a pretty good chance they'll be ratcheted down to 77 decibels in the next couple of years. So I put it to you, anyone who says that my work with the international people is not important, or not the main focus of this, well, I ask you, what is? This is coming. We have a chance to be ready for it. The sad thing is that MRAA has shown the way into fade out of the scene and the running will be taken up by groups like the AMC and the New South Wales Council. Okay, enough on that. The deciding factor. When I took over the deciding factor a year or so ago, it was obvious that it couldn't be done with MRAA funds. There was never any proper invoicing done for advertisers. If advertisers came in here and paid the money, then the money would disappear into the MRAA bank account and get swallowed up by whatever black hole it gets swallowed. So the idea was floated to have a separate bank account for the deciding factor. That was vetoed by the President here for whatever reason. He has a thing about these sorts of things. I've given up trying to understand the workings of his mind. So he put it to me that I register the name of the deciding factor as my own business name and thereby run it as a separate bank account that way, meaning that it will be independent from the MRA. Now, I did that. The verbal agreement was, and I would never do this again, I was that naive, but it was a verbal agreement that I would make as much money as I could from advertising. The rest of the production costs would be met by MRAA, and postage would be met by MRAA. Now, up till now, I've had no trouble getting the postage back. I normally pay that. It's around $600 per issue. I normally pay it myself, submit the receipts, and get it back within a couple of months. The problem has been the production overrun cost. The factor itself, the magazine, costs about $1,200 to produce each issue. Advertising on average returns about $800. And I've been wearing the $400 difference. It's $1,600 a year now. I got that back last year, only by virtue of the fact that I was running the Thunderbird raffle and there was money available to pay that $1,600 back. I wouldn't have got it otherwise. This year there's been one issue of the factor. It cost that $1,200 to produce. I expect to get about $500 back in advertising revenue, and it cost around $600 to post. I don't expect to get any of that back. Obviously, I can't wear this, even if I wanted to, and I do want to. I would soon be bankrupt. My family's house would soon be gone. So at this point, there can be no more deciding factor. It's pretty sad because we were getting there. We were on our way, but it was always a fool's paradise. This association cannot afford a huge level of that standard. So we may well go back to a few photocopied things. I don't care what will happen here, basically. This shop, it's not yet certain whether Kingsley is going to be able to present his side of the case. It's certainly the case against him has been well and truly presented here today. There seems to be an effort here to deny Kingsley his say in the matter. I'd appreciate, if that happens, I'd appreciate you all talk to Kingsley at your own leisure. Basically, the philosophies are not different, in spite of what the gentleman beside me said earlier. We can take the next step. We can go to a professional organisation, but it is just not possible with 2,000 members. And Kingsley brought this to the attention of the board way back last November or October. If we don't have 3,000 to 5,000 members by the end of this summer, we are dead in the water. At that time, I sort of didn't believe him because we've always cruised along with no money before. But what I didn't know was that since last July, MRA has been paying every cent of the cost of this shop. I wasn't aware of that at the time. Certainly the board was never made aware of that in the board meeting. That is a fact. The President claimed that he paid the first 2 years of the rental in this place. I know that's not true because I prepared the 1995 statement after a previous treasurer disappeared, and I know we paid $14,000 rent in that year. We've also worn most of the rates, maintenance on the shop ever since first opened. Now, I don't know whether Kingsley's going to get to have his say here, but he has the figures, and it's simple arithmetic. At present, we cannot afford this place. This place costs, in rent rates and maintenance, over $40,000 a year. We have 2,000 members at $20 or $25 each. That comes to about $45,000. In other words, every single penny of the members' money that should be going to, or they think is going to fight riders' rights, is being sunk into this place. That's how it stands at the moment. That's why we are currently thousands of dollars in debt. I don't have the exact figures. Kingsley and the accountant have the exact figures. At present, we owe an amount of $16,500 to this gentleman here. We owe amounts of like $2,700 to badge suppliers, various other people. Now, the accountant has made a big attempt in the last 3 months to service those debts because they are immediate debts. They're bills that we have to pay now. They're current liabilities. We paid quite a lot of them off as money became available in the account. There's still a lot outstanding. I don't know the figures. Kingsley's allowed to. He'll tell you what they are. The fact is, let me get my head straight here a second. The fact is, those debts are there right now. We cannot afford this place. It's as simple as that. If the members are willing to spend every single penny of their money to keep this place alive, and I hope that it could be done, but it is black and white. It's just arithmetic. We cannot afford this place. It's as simple as that. That's all I have to say. I hope you people will give Kingsley the opportunity to have his say, because he is going to wear all the slander and the innuendo that goes with this sort of thing. He is entitled to have his say.
Thanks, Jim. As chairman, it's my job to act impartially, and I said I will act impartially. Jim has alluded to the financial situation that the MRA faces. I was informed the other day that Kingsley had resigned as treasurer, and there's a letter from Jim Cutts acknowledging the fact that Kingsley departed, which said, following the unexpected departure of Treasurer Kingsley the other night, I have, with the consent of board members, appointed myself interim treasurer, as occurred 2 years ago when you were left with no treasurer and only 6 weeks to prepare any financial statements. That was until a new treasurer was appointed by the board or elected by the members.
David, that was purely an interim meeting for a couple of weeks.
Just be quiet for a second, Jeff. I have spoken to John McEwen, who I saw walk in here before. Is John here somewhere? John McEwen is Kingsley's father, and John has in fact done
Excuse me, just
books.
try McNabb, not McEwen.
I'm sorry, Nick.
That's all right.
John, I would call upon you to give a very short form of what you believe the financial statements are now. The money in the bank, the 5-minute report, no more, as to what the financial situation is, because I don't believe it's going to be totally critical in the decision that the members have got to make today, although it is relevant. They understand what you say the situation is.
Well, if you like, you can pass those out to members.
What's that?
Oh, that's just the it's just the accounts which were scheduled with the 31st. That's the ones that were sent. Yeah, the board's got them, but
Well, I simply want you to
I'll
give
just
summaries.
make a
I just want you to give summaries.
No, I'll give a statement and then ask them to ask me a question.
As long as it's not so long through it.
Okay. Right, this was Treasurer's report, which I report to you that I'm unable to produce to you the accounts for the period ended 30th of April 1997 because, 1, when on the 1st of May 1997 the MRA's accountant, that was me, arrived at 380 Elizabeth Street to carry out the usual monthly stock take, of MRAA stock. He was ordered off the premises by the President, who stated he was acting on legal advice from his legal advisor. When the accountant spoke to his legal advisor, he said he didn't know anything about such advice. 2. The President has, since from the 11th of January 1997, been taking MRAA money out of the till and spending it on expense items. The accountant has requested the information about this money in excess of $2,000 as to the form in which it was received, i.e. was the money for membership fees, was it for cash sales, donations or what? 3. The President wrote to the IOOF Building Society and had the MRAA account frozen. No bank statement has been received, so the banking charges are unknown and no reconciliation statement can be produced. I'm submitting the accounts for the period ended 31st of March 1997, which were submitted to the last board meeting on the 17th of April 1997. At that meeting it was admitted by the President that he was taking the money from the till and using it to pay expenses. So now the accounts need amending. There is a fundamental question of MRA or MRAA occupying the premises at 380 Elizabeth Street. The lease costs, including rent, rates, insurances, has a cost of nearly $40,000. This has been confirmed by Mr. Sprekos, the landlord. With the MRAA's total income maybe reaching $55,000 this year, I and 3 other board members, this is Kingsley speaking, 3 other board members believe that the MRAA cannot afford these premises and should move to another location as soon as possible and before the association's put into liquidation. I or the association's accountant will answer any questions.
Okay. In summary, what John is saying is that, as I understand the situation, the financial situation, is that the present revenues for the MRAA, John will correct me if I'm wrong, are somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 a year.
Somewhere in that range we don't know, but it's in
The cost of running these premises here are around $40,000 a year if the MRA pays for rent. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah.
The present situation is that there has been an excess of expenditure over income for the 12 months finishing on the 31st of March, an excess of expenditure over income of $6,000. Is that a fair summary?
Can I say for the 9 months ended that, but let's turn to the balance sheet and we will see that accumulated funds, that's what we are worth, is basically a minus 12,406.
So basically you're a footy club at the moment, footy club it used to be. Now, thank you, John.
Okay, right. If there's anybody got any questions through the chairman, please ask.
What is... Sorry. Yes. Jim?
Jim, before we deal with finances, I'd simply like to question the editor statement to the deciding factor, because I really believe that I need to understand what your motives are regarding the NRA. When you said that you personally hope the council will think that matters to me, what did you mean by that?
Yeah. There's a multiplicity of organisations in this country, and that's because people can't get on together. There's a lot of talented people in this state alone who've been driven away from MRA Australia over the years. Those talented people, capable people, good people, need a forum to work in. The VMC I see as such a forum. You know, I don't really envisage that council. I don't have high hopes for it, put it that way. But it would be nice, as a general long-term thing, that they come into the mainstream of lobbying in this state. Does that answer your question?
So are you envisaging that the MRAA, that size
basically that we should work with them. With the current president, that's not possible because he is purely an us and them man. The other 4 members of the board work fairly well with people from other organisations.
Any more questions? Either John or Damien.
Yeah, just another question on what Jim was saying is that, from what I gather you're saying, Jim, is you're saying these other organisations are lobbying the government. I mean, we have in the MRA Australia's foremost lobbyist, and he has achieved quite a number of, kicked a good number of goals. Are you saying that the goals that we have kicked as a result of his work are now valueless?
It's not just his work, there's other people work in this organisation. So often this writers' rights thing comes down to persons, people, one committed person in an organisation or 3 or 4 in any one organisation. We don't have talented people coming out of the walls. If we need 2 organisations in this state so that other capable people can work, then I'm all in favour of it. Let's go for it and work together. I'm not downgrading this organisation whatsoever, or downgrading its achievements.
I guess,
after all, some of those achievements have been mine as well.
Yeah, I guess, Mr. Chairman, what I'm saying is that the MRA's been in existence for 19 years, and we've achieved a number of goals. The association has achieved a number of goals, and I like to think that those goals would be recognised, and they have been recognised through the OIM that our President received. And he has only recently stated himself that he couldn't have received that OIM without the support of the people around him. And I've been in the association for over 10 years and known Damien for a lengthy amount of time. And I'd hate to think that these other organisations would be any better than us.
What do you say?
You've made a statement rather than a question. I'm going to catch you shortly rather than involve the conversation. Over here.
Chris Clark, I'd just like to question when this
Who's the question directed to?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, to the President. When I initially heard of this shop being opened, the statement that I believe I heard was that the MRA will be paying a third of the rent. I'm just wondering how that has changed or why it has changed.
Well, it's changed because that wasn't true in the first place. It was 50-50, with the hope of involving other businesses, as only recently has happened with on-site and Swan and so on. The first 2 years, I paid out of my own pocket almost all of the rent. Now, there's $14,000 out of that 40 or 80,000 that was picked up by the MRA during the time it took for the money from the sale of my house to come through when membership fees were used. All that means is that when you balance up the 4 years of the lease, the MRA's already started to pay some of its way. But the money came out of my pocket, my personal fund, to run this place for the first 2 years. The problem was that we came back into the organisation in 1989, and there was something like $15,000 in hard debts that we couldn't get away from. They were receipted, and there was claims for another 8 or 10,000. So we're up close to 25,000 in debt. The previous management of the association in the late 80s had just turned around to the lawyer Jim Gurry, who he'd owed $8,000 to, and he said, well, we never made that. That was the previous board that made that commitment to you. The Supreme Court case on road furniture, and that was great. Getting off the subject, it's important to understand where we were a few years back when this was needed. So in the early 80s, we decided to start looking around. I can dig out the photos we took. We went up and down Elizabeth Street.
Sorry, I'm sorry to keep on the track. The question was, as I recall, that you thought that the MRA was going to pay a third of the rent? Damien said that wasn't the arrangement, it was 50-50, and Damien's saying he's paid the first 2 years out of how many, 4 years?
Almost 2 years, whatever it is.
Almost 2 years.
Out of a 4-year lease, and there was plenty of holding.
How much longer does the lease got to run?
The lease runs until July 1998, so it has a bit more than a year, and I have a bit more than a year my term.
Okay. So one question each, I'm sorry. You?
It was just a follow on from that, same question actually. Question is, so as it stands now, the MRA is only liable for 50% of the lease. Is that right?
Less the 14, I think it was 14,000.
Except that it owes you because you paid the first couple of
No,
years.
there's two separate amounts.
Yeah.
Okay, so the rental amount is that we were going to go 50-50. If we, through the business plan, can get other businesses in, the MRA doesn't pay. But we need a stable board to do that. The amount you've heard mentioned, $16,000. I can't give you the exact numbers, but they're there. We've got a good record. Is money that I personally have used to purchase things like T-shirts and so on for the MRA, and the records are all there. Now that they're claiming that's the bulk of the debt of the MRA, so it's insolvent. Now, what I put that money in for was a future to make this place work. And I have said time and again on the record, on videotape, that I don't want that money back. I want to work and earn it back for myself. So when you get these figures, have a think about whether someone put in, I don't know what they call that kind of a loan, but it's a legitimate debt, and everybody else, I've made sure everyone else has been paid back, money's owed to them, whether they've been put in like Jim, or whether they're for badges or so on, before I've taken a cent. And I just, in my own defence, would like to say that I take from my sale of insurance and from my writing a column in Royal Auto, wages of $450 per month, not per week. And I can only stand here and do this job because my mother and father give me food and a room, no cost.
Answer the question. I think just to summarise from the reports, and again, John McNabb will correct me if I'm wrong, according to the balance sheet as of the 31st of March, the accumulated funds brought forward the deficit. You've got a figure of effectively 12,400, of which 16,500 is put down in the books as a debt to Damien. What I understand Damien is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Damien is saying that if he gets that back, that would be terrific, but if he doesn't get it back, well, that's what it is. He's working for basically $100 a week, which he's not being paid by the MRA, he's being paid by either Swan Insurance or the RACV. Is there any other question before we move on?
Yeah, question to Jim. If this place was closed, has he considered or has he got in mind an alternative venue?
Yeah, if there's any amount of rental available in this city, not shopfront, for a third of what we pay now.
In Elizabeth?
For virtually any street in the city, yeah.
I think we'll cover this in more detail. We'll cover this because this is fairly fundamental, and we've come to a point where Damien has made a report, Jim has made a report. There has been a financial report provided. It hasn't been provided because I accept that the Treasurer has in fact resigned, but the financial report has been presented nonetheless. We're now in a situation where we are open to general business. Now, there is, as you will have determined, a clear disagreement between Damien and Jim and
Mr. Chairman,
the board. Yes.
point of order, that doesn't finish all the officers' reports to the members.
So membership secretary has no report.
The secretary is in hospital. Is there any other report? You say the membership secretary has no report.
There's no report.
I'll ask the report to the members.
Well, the membership secretary's report is, I'm afraid, not particularly relevant this afternoon. I think Damien will provide the information we have. The secretary has no, membership secretary has no report. I think there was some comment which was to be made about the present state of memberships. I think it's relevant, and I'll let the President take it as an agenda report.
Okay, 3 months ago,
Mr. Chairman, usually general meetings usually have all officers' reports to the members first before general business is dealt with.
Well, in this particular case, there was no Secretary's report. What report are you alluding to?
Public officer.
The public officer is not a board member and is not making a report to this meeting.
I said officers of the organisation report to the members. I didn't say board member.
No, it's not a board member.
I'm sorry.
The public officer is not
The public officer is not under the Constitution, but I understand it have the right to make a report to the meeting. The public officer has a statutory role, and it's not a role which requires to be reported to at this meeting. I rule the point of order out of order. You can challenge me if you want to.
okay, Shane has given me these figures, and basically what they say is that since the last report he made, there were 2,055 members then. There are 2,050, but that's financial members now, so it's 5 less. Fees. People are renewing in response to the mail-outs that we've done. That's these things. We've kept the leaflets. To cut it short, the fees due now that could come in equal 380 members. Now, if you calculate at $25 a head, that gives a potential income due now of $9,500. Now, it's unrealistic to think that everyone will come back. But it also doesn't count family memberships, which are more than $25, new members which come in here on a daily basis, and stock sales. If 60% renewed, then you would, without those other things, you'd be looking at $5,700, close to 2 months' rent. The sources of renewals are clearly from major items from the shop and from mailings done out of the shop and from the GPO box cleared by it. The other areas are very small percentages of that. Total deciding factor renewals 39, Toy Run 3, Motorcycle Trader Magazine 4. Those numbers are here if anyone wants to see.
That finalises the reports, and I will now move on to the general business. Obviously, we've reached the point where there is a very significant disagreement between Damien and the other members of the board as to where the MRA is going. It's always an unhappy situation in a club like this when an impasse is reached. An impasse appears to be reached in a motorcycle riders association, and there are generally only 2 ways that these impasses can be resolved. One is that members of the board resign, as I believe is the case with the Treasurer, or they are voted off the board. Now, Damien has foreshadowed that he wishes to put a proposal, and I will call on Damien to put the proposal.
Okay.
I'll foreshadow this by saying that the Constitution. Jim, I'm sorry, you're out of order. Jim, stand over there. Well, Jim has just suggested to me that 3 of the board members propose to resign today. I will invite any of the board members who do wish to resign. As I've foreshadowed, there are 2 ways that this impasse can be resolved. One is that either Damien resigns or the other board members resign, or you, the members, decide who is going to run the MRA. Jim, you've just made it known to me for the first time that 3 of the board members proposed to resign. Is that the case?
Well, one already has. Kingsley has resigned, obviously.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, his resignation takes effect at the end of this meeting, and I wouldn't attempt to talk him out of it. I'd just like to say the reason he resigned was because he was subjected to a tirade of abuse at the last board meeting, and I would not wish any person to have to...
Jim, the question is, I'm going to keep this meeting on a fairly tight rein because emotions are running high. I don't want it to become any less pleasant than it obviously is to the people who have given up their Sunday afternoons to come here. I say again, do any of the board members propose to resign? And if so, would they please give me their written resignations?
There you go. Could I read these out? Can I read this? First of all, is from Carla Maitland. As you all know, she's in hospital. I, Carla Maitland, the duly elected Secretary of the MRAA, hereby resign from that position. I found it increasingly difficult to work with one member of the board and refuse to put up with the abuse I have received from that person. Also, the running of the organisation in the current state of solvency with no attempt to turn it around is not acceptable to me. Carla Maitland.
Please table that resignation.
This is from me. I, Gordon Hurst, the duly elected membership secretary of the association, hereby tender my resignation at the conclusion of this meeting. I would like to make my reasons clear for my action, and that is I find the actions of the incumbent president totally contrary to any decent leader of any motorcycle organisation. His total lack of business acumen is only overshadowed by his appalling personnel skills. At the time of my appointment, it was made perfectly clear that my work commitments would make it impossible for me to fulfil any total duties as a membership secretary. And my appointment was to add my experience with working with MAD UK to the board of the MRAA. This has appeared acceptable to the membership, the board and the president at the time. However, a fact which has been conveniently forgotten. Further to this, a riders' organisation relies on the goodwill and commitment of volunteers. This is only achieved by support of those elected to run the organisation. To be treated to a torrent of verbal abuse is not a formula for keeping good volunteers. At the conclusion of this meeting, I shall submit my resignation to the board and also hand in my membership card. I wish not to have any further involvement with the Damien Cognato Club.
Jim, you said 3 members of the board were going to resign.
Elizabeth. I appreciate it if she was allowed to say.
Well, she'll have an opportunity to say something.
This is general business, I understand.
Well, we haven't got it. We can only discuss general business when we have a motion put on the floor, or from the floor, to discuss. And then everybody will be given 2 minutes to speak either for or against that motion, and I'll be given an ample opportunity. Now, it seems to me that we have now a resigned treasurer, a resigned membership secretary and a resigned secretary. There's a 5-member board. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Constitution, we currently have a president and a vice president, and there are 3 board vacancies.
I believe the membership secretary didn't resign until the end of the meeting. So unless we stop this meeting and start another, I believe he's still in his position.
I take your point, and you are quite right. Gordon Hurst, his resignation is at the end of the meeting. For all intents and purposes, Gordon has resigned, and I ask Gordon, do you have any intention to withdraw your resignation before the end of the meeting?
Can you repeat that, please?
Do you have any intention to withdraw your resignation before the end of the meeting?
No.
So for all intents and purposes, unless you want to be a lawyer at split hairs, Sunday, so it's my afternoon off, I won't. We don't have a membership secretary. Jim, you propose to remain as vice president, is that right?
Yeah, I'm not putting a resignation in here right now.
We have, however, a problem under the Constitution because we have 3 casual vacancies, and the board alone can appoint people to fill casual vacancies unless we have a special meeting which we need 30 days
notice to have. So unfortunately this meeting can't vote people and fill casual vacancies. We do have an acting membership secretary, I'll let it show, but we don't have a board vacancy. So we're back to the situation where we are now in general business, and I call upon anybody to make any proposals, any motions to be put that we can discuss, because I'm sure the issues that Elizabeth wishes to bring up and anybody else wishes to bring up will be brought forth in the debate on those motions or that motion. So, does anybody have any motion? I give Damien the first option because it's obviously of importance. The motion that I believe Damien is going to put on, where is it?
I'd like to say a couple of things before I move this motion. I'm happy if she
No, I'm not letting Elizabeth speak because she's not a board member. I'm asking anybody if you want to
This
propose
is
a
general
motion.
business, David.
It's general
Elizabeth wants to speak.
I'm sorry?
This is general business.
To have the right to speak at general business, we must have a motion before the floor. Now, is anybody going to put a motion, Damien?
Well, I can't see how I can go on. I have to move a motion of no confidence in the Vice President. And
Do we have a seconder for that motion? The motion is moved by Damien Cottagnotto that this meeting has no confidence in the Vice President. We have a seconder, Adrian Farrelly. So we have a motion before the floor for the meeting. Now, Damien, 2 minutes to speak to the motion.
the reason I've moved it, I would prefer not to have. I certainly didn't want to vilify any one of the people who I think sincerely believe that they know how to take this organisation and run it properly. My problem is that we've seen in the resignations and some of the things that have been said a certain vilification of myself about petty cash, about various things like myself vetoing an internal account. All I did was raise the internal account with the deciding factor which Jim ran. Why I raised that was because our previous treasurer, who was a chartered accountant, that was Angus Cummings, he said that we weren't to run internal accounts, that it was bad business, and that if you wanted to set up a separate operation, then you did it as a separate operation, and it was liable for its own funds. And that is the way the deciding factor was set up. It's now not a viable operation. That was run totally by Jim. He would never let me see what went into it, and this latest issue still has mistakes that I've complained about. I've been vilified in other ways that the accountant, Mr. McNabb, turned up here totally unannounced last Friday, and at the last board meeting I clearly asked John McNabb, can I have the cheque, when can I have the chequebooks and so on, meaning financial books, because the treasurer had just resigned, and the answer was in a day or two. Now, not only was that heard, but it's on videotape. And yet there's a letter here saying quite clearly on Mr. McNabb's letterhead that I never asked him for the books, nor did he ever agree to give them, hand them back. Now, his employees, it's costing us, I don't know, $200, $300 a month, whatever it is. But it makes it look like I was the bad guy. I did receive advice. I took it as legal advice. I didn't get it from this man. I got it from the Society for Practising Accountants, and they said that until I put in a formal written complaint, it was probably a good idea to avoid contact. Now, I had no idea he was going to walk through the door, and when he did, I told him precisely that. He has assumed I was talking about David Stagg. Treasurer. We asked many, many times. Any of you that run your own
I'm going to
business?
wind you up. I want you to, the motion is no confidence in Jim.
All right. The Vice President, as the Constitution required, has not only not supported me in my role as President, but he's made life pure hell for me. I don't know why he's staying on when all of his faction have dropped out, unless they're looking at more disruption through a special meeting or something like that. I've had enough. We ended today. I moved the motion, and one of the people who works very hard in here, Adrian Farrelly, and who is also running for a position at the August AGM, has seconded it. We can have a secret ballot here.
2.5 minutes. I've given you extra time. Can we have somebody who wishes to speak against the motion?
Do I get a chance to speak in my defence?
You certainly do, Jim.
Raise your hand second, but must talk on it.
Well, those and seconder don't have to talk at it immediately. We can have for and against. The seconder has seconded the motion. Do you want to say anything to this? She's indicated she doesn't, so I'm calling on somebody to vote to speak against the motion. Jim, you've got the floor.
Hang on a second. So it's judgment time. All I can say is, judge me on my record. I've kept the deciding factor going these last 2 years. The President thinks it's a load of shit. Everyone else I talk to thinks it's of good quality. There's the occasional mistake in it. Hey, this is me. I've always got it out more or less on time, never on time. But there you go. That's life in an organisation with no money. As for the other work that I do within the MRAA, I have a job that takes 11 hours out of every day. I generally do 2 to 3 hours work at home each night. That's on the deciding factor, on international stuff, on the odd lobbying effort that I do, such as the submission to the WIRO or the Australian Standards Association last month. Various other bits and pieces, and I spend a lot of time conversing with members on the telephone. My office is at home. It's not here. There's no facilities here for me to work. There's no reason for me to come here. My office is at home. My computer's there. I converse with the international groups via internet. There's no facilities for that here. There's no desk space to work at. If I come here, there's nothing for me to do. Maybe sell a t-shirt, an overpriced t-shirt of $25. Those t-shirts we buy 50 at a time and they take 6 months to sell. They're really irrelevant to the finances of this organisation. I've just had some advice from a gentleman who I respect concerning another matter. So, rather than let this go forward and be judged by the members, I'll submit this resignation. I shall also quit the association just the same as Gaz has. And since I'm paid to the year 2000, I'll also be submitting a bill for refund of both my and my wife's membership, which is currently the year 2000. So that'll be 4 years worth of membership. I'll expect to be refunded. Yeah, I've done a lot of good work and I've achieved a lot of things. And I'm not prepared to stand here and be judged otherwise by the members purely because of political machinations over a shop that is taking more than half the available money for Australian riders' rights out of the system. And when I say that, I mean there is not much money in this country available for riders' rights, perhaps $100,000 amongst all the groups in the country. This shop swallows almost half for no return. So just remember that every penny that your dues is going into this shop, not into the fight for riders' rights.
It appears that I was asked Damien that he wishes to withdraw his motion. He said he would. For the resignation, Jim, again, I just want to ask you if you've got no intention of withdrawing this resignation. You indicated you had led the association, so at the present time, ladies and gentlemen, we have Damien Colignato with 3 resignations and 1 other board position previously vacated by the Treasurer, so there's only 1 board member. So you withdraw that motion?
Yes,
David, do you need someone to accept, someone to move that the meeting accept those resignations?
If you want to propose that for the record, I'll certainly accept that. If you can continue your name.
David Milligan, I'd like to move that we accept those 3 resignations.
Thank you very much. There's no need to go any further. I'll simply put the motion. Those in favour of accepting the resignation. Why let that on? We have a clear majority on the voices and hands.
Mr. Chairman, there is one other person to read out a statement while we're on this track.
Well,
the Director of the 4Bs wishes to make a statement at this point.
That is by leave of the meeting, and I asked the meeting, if there was a meeting, happy to have Elizabeth Morse to...
I'll move that the Director of the 4Bs be allowed to speak.
Second of that?
Second.
Elizabeth, you have the floor. Well, we passed that on the board. Thank you. Thank you. Elizabeth?
Well, I didn't think it was going to be this dramatic today. I don't know whether you know, but I have been for director for the last year. I've written out a speech so I don't get it wrong. It's just a general basic of what I have done. Over the past year, I've built up the most recent 4B support program. Even though the program had been in existence in the past, the hospital system has changed so much that the past experiences were now relevant to me. After going through the long, drawn-out process of working through modern hospital procedures, I secured the major emergency hospitals in Melbourne, 2 major satellite hospitals, and rehabilitation centres. I've always felt the help of others to get the 4Bs going successfully. The reason why I volunteered my time for the MRAA is because I thought it was a good cause, that I may be able to do some good for motorcycling. The job of reforming the 4B program was never going to be easy. However, after seeing 2 of my brothers try to cope with a serious motorcycle accident, I saw the 4Bs as a very important form of support for motorcycle riders. For some unknown reason, I thought that I would be able to make this 4B program last longer than all the others, despite my knowledge of the past. I was wrong. Today, 4th of May 1997, I'm resigning as 4B Director and will cite Damien Colignato as the main factor in my decision. The 4Bs are definitely worth fighting for. Unfortunately, I am in no way up to the tactics employed by our President. The toll upon my personal well-being and trying to fight for 4Bs is now too much. And I think I'll be greatly disappointed. And I also have here my contacts made through being 4B Director, which were demanded of me earlier this week.
Would anybody like to propose another thanks to Elizabeth for
Yes.
The time is now 4 o'clock. Sorry, it's 6 minutes to 4. We've all given up the last part of our afternoon. Do you want to continue the meeting for a little bit longer? Are there any other things that you'd like to discuss? On your hands, just to tell me whether after this rather traumatic afternoon you'd like to stop now and discuss the AG and get going.
That's appropriate. Thank you.
You certainly will take general questions. Are there anything further motion that want to be put to the floor?
Are we going to decide whether the shop will stay open and what role the shop will take as determined by the party who's interested in setting it up on a more business-like footing? Is that the next one?
Well, that's what I would like to discuss if the members here are prepared to give some right? Damien, would you like to make a motion that the shop is continues, and then we can bring it open for discussion on the floor?
Well, my understanding of the agreement, and
Can I have a motion first of all?
I can't really disclose because I think it contradicts something that's already in place.
Point of order, I don't think you need to put a motion under 15.8 of our Constitution. It comes up as a discussion topic first anyway, so I think you've got that available to you.
Can I make a brief?
Okay. Damien, 2 minutes.
The previous Secretary Carla, and then again recently I mentioned it to Detlef, we need to go over to the store in Richmond and go through the paperwork there to find the letter that led to the way this place is conducted and minutes around that time. They're in the lockup. The lease has a bit over a year to run, and then there's an option. In terms of city properties, it's good value, particularly its potential. What I'm going to suggest is that we honour that lease, and that agreement which will last nearly 3 years now, and we conduct the business of the association until the AGM on August 10th. As it has been conducted, and then perhaps the matter can be discussed further then. My feeling is that there's a moral obligation to keep the lease going, not just for my sake, because my name's on it, and obviously I'm liable for funds, not the association, but also for the landlord's sake. He's treated us very well. Excuse me. What are you doing?
You talking to me?
Well, anyone going through my desk and stuff? What were you after?
Get on with your meeting.
Manual for the fax machine.
I can give it to you if you ask.
Can you give me a second to... What I think is appropriate, there's been a business plan prepared by Mark Stewart, which sets out the ideas that can be done to make this shop viable. The division, as you've probably detected, is between whether or not it's appropriate to spend 2/3 of the revenue of the MRA on keeping a headquarters in Elizabeth Street, with all the benefits that carries with it. That sort of expenditure is simply too great a proportion of the funds of the MRA. There are two ways of looking after these things. One is to cut expenditure, the other one is to increase revenue. And obviously, increasing revenue is the way to grow, decreasing expenditure is the way to contract. Now, where's Mark Stewart?
Yeah, here.
Mark, would you like to give an outline of what you see that can make the headquarters here viable, at least in the intermediate future, until a further decision is made at a later time?
Yeah, the business plan has been put together by not just myself but a few professional and successful business people, and it's a plan that sets out in the short term how to get out of this crisis. If this isn't a crisis, there are debts, they're only minor. Any small business operator who is worth his weight can get out of it. It's just a matter of playing the game, implementing certain plans, and we will see increasing membership. As all of you are probably aware, we need to increase membership, and to do that, we can't do that just on the basis of, yeah, we can represent you, but we need to give you the members something tangible, something down to earth that we encourage you and your mates and operators to join up. So what Consultant Oversight Service can do is offer you a free 24-hour roadside assistance service. Full stop. That's it, in a nutshell. There's lots of other things that go along with it. Okay? if we could just get that word out to the members, I'm sure that we can increase our membership base from its current 2,000 to, I would estimate, about 3,000 within 6 months, and about 5,000 members in a reasonable period of time. Yes, Chris?
Yes, is that the new members, or is that all members?
All current members, all current members, and all members that sign up. Yeah, it'll be like Derek said, it'll get sent out to you, tells you all the circumstances where you're eligible. That's it in a nutshell. That's just what, hopefully, you guys that have stuck through all this shit over the last period of time, okay, and it is, isn't it? Yeah. I've come in here to try and sort it out, but I'm fed up with it, to be honest. Just a second. Yeah, hopefully you guys can go out there and tell everybody else that the Mraa is actually on, has a clear vision for the future of how the Mraa can actually grow to become something similar to what the RACV is past. They have huge political clout, and that's what we need and that's what we want. Okay, Damien and the rest of the crew at the Mraa have done a magic job building it up. Let's build it up even further. Don't stop here at just a club. Let's keep going and make the MRAA, have the same political weight behind it as the RACV.
Okay, that sounds really good from the RA's perspective. How do you do that?
I ultimately intend to get something out of it. I'm in business.
I was on the account.
A couple of things. We're going to workshop as well. So we will ultimately, I'm sure, get a little bit of follow-up work for the workshop. That's, I'm going to trust a little bit on that. But I'm in business, I don't do anything for nothing. At some stage, once the Mraa has got, say, 5,000 members...
It's got to make money too.
One of the things, if I can just cut in here, there's been discussions, and some innuendo made about the role that Damien plays in the NFC and insurance. The fact is the Mraa with the intention that the money that is saved and the money from the increased membership is used to pay a professional administrator, somebody who's in here from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night, that's on the end of a telephone line, because if you haven't noticed, Damien Cottage knows bloody near exhaustion. And I've spoken to him during the week, and I'm surprised that the guy's still standing on 2 feet, not laying flat on his back in a hospital bed somewhere. But you try to tell him to take a day off, and you may as well talk to the moon. So it's my view that to be viable, the Mraa requires to have enough cash flow to put somebody in here behind a telephone, so that Damien can go off and do whatever lobbying he has to do, and the place can still function, and you've got a port of call. But I'm probably overstepping the mark as chairman, but I'm just trying to make it quick and clear and concise. Does anybody have any questions for Mark, or to me, or to Damien, or to anybody?
If they're going to sublet, would they be sort of in this shop space?
Yes. I haven't got another copy of this to go around at the moment, sorry, but this is a suggested layout. I've listed 10 or so businesses that I would almost say don't think it's fair to try and get in here to lease a small section of space to pay the rent, to help pay the rent of the overall shop, so the Mraa's expenditure goes down. At the same time, with extra flow of people coming through here, membership levels go up. That is the best way to run a business. You don't run a business or expect it to grow by reducing expenditure. You increase a business by increasing its income. Standard rules of business. Any more questions?
Yeah, with this business expertise coming into the association, has any figures come up as to how much, or what percentage of the rent would then be the liability of the association, and what percentage would be split up amongst other companies?
One suggested layout will come up with this 1/3 Mraa, 2/3 paid by sublessees.
You're talking about $3,000
These are
a
specifics.
month, is what the outcome is on here. If you were to get 3 or 4 businesses that, I mean, look, there's a question: do you sublet 90% of the shop and have an MRA information counter here? And this hasn't been decided. This is what we're doing. You could either sublet 90% of the shop and have an MRA information counter, so that you know where to come. There's a flat upstairs. We're not going to rent that for $1,000. Damien's attitude is that you have to be where the action is. You've got to be in Elizabeth Street, because every time he's moved it somewhere else or somebody's home, the thing's died in the arse. It needs the exposure, but we don't want to pay the rent, so it's a matter of using a few smarts. Mark's got some people will come in and pay probably $2,000 a month towards that cost. If you do a simple calculation, you're paying $25 per year membership. If you have, out of the 75,000 odd motorcycle riders in Victoria, if you've got 5% of those people, which is I think what, about 6,000 or 7,000 members, you've got an income of about $127,000. It doesn't need much of the percentage of motorcycle riders in the state of Victoria to make it the MRA. But 3,750 members, that's just over, not quite double what you've got now. At 25, that's $93,750. Now, if you've got to pay $20,000 or $20,000 a year rent, you've got enough money to pay a full-time person to be here. Damien can go off and do the lobbying that he wants to do. You can have all the ancillary things that go into building into a professionally managed club, and that's what the intention is to do.
Mr. Chairman, obviously the vacancies in the board can be addressed at the next meeting, which I believe is the AGM.
Yes.
I would like to see this business plan perhaps present for consideration to all members prior to the AGM.
You can call for a special meeting that can be held within 30 days. It means 10 of you to stick your hands up and write your name down. And we'll have a special meeting. At the special meeting, you can in fact fill those board positions. You can't do it today. It's a constitution.
I would like to see you get together with 10 people, get together with a few of us, and go through this business plan and have some more input from you guys to help us put it together in more detail. My question in this particular instance is to John McNabb. Can we continue trading solvently and legally between now and the AGM?
My question, well, my answer to this is until I actually find out what the actual state of the affairs are, bring the accounts up to date, this is what Damien has asked me to discuss with you. I can't give an answer, and furthermore is the fact that going on my knowledge of how many renewals or new memberships are coming in, I don't think so. But there again, as I say, Damien is bringing in other corporate business. So my answer is I haven't got the information to answer the question.
Well, in answer to your question, the accountant says he doesn't know because what we do is actually changing, we're shifting the goalpost. The most loved baseballer in American baseball history was Babe Ruth, and the reason he was the most loved baseballer was because he just didn't have the best batting average. But he used to go out there and he'd stand on the mound, he'd point somewhere into the bloody bleachers and say, that is where I'm going to hit the ball. And he did, as often as not. Now, we're talking about 3 months of the AGM. In answer to your question, yes, you'll be solvent for the next 3 months because it won't go broke, because we won't let it go broke. Does that answer your question? That's fine.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just, to elucidate people, I was recently fortunate enough to be discussing something with the ROCB, and the person I was speaking to there, who's in the management role, drew a comparison between what the ROCB do and what the MRA do. And he said that 80% of what the ROCB do is develop product to sell to the market, which allows them to maintain a crew of about 10 to 15, maybe 20 people to do their lobbying on behalf of the ROCB. That's the way that the ROCB operates, and that's why they're so big and successful as they are. I've been associated with the MRA for quite a few years, going back before the last Grand Prix and back into the 80s. And it's always struck me as strange as why this organisation has never ever attempted to develop a business plan and to make money from developing and selling products. And I would give my greatest support to the development of as many products as we can. I mean, this product that we're talking about here, there are any number of other products we can develop and sell to motorcyclists and to the general public to make money so that we can pay or develop a strong lobbying organisation to pay a salary to people to do that.
What I'd like to see happen this time is that this business idea is very similar to what's been put in the past, and with all the best intention, I think it's just as valid now. One of the problems is that it gets left at the stage, right, we'll do it, and then just a couple of people get left to make it happen, and it's usually Damien. So it's his tenacity that's kept things going as it is. I think what we need this time is to have a group formed that actually looks at it in all its aspects, including the legal side. We've got an accountant on board, we've got Mark, we've got some other people, I dare say, who are business people here. We should look at it properly this time and make a proper assessment of it to put to the members, not just because they ramble in here today, because they're asked to. And then let's get it going properly this time. I'm involved in a couple of organisational changes in the Defence Department at the moment, and the three services, Army, Navy and Air Force, the stuff they used to do till now is going to be done by one central organisation, and everything is on paper, what they'll expect, what they'll get, what they have to pay for it, all that sort of stuff. I think we should get it all down properly, because I don't want to be here in another 3 years' time and somebody says, yeah, I think Mark said that 1/3 of it will be paid by so-and-so, because that's what's happened from the last time these proposals were set going. I think we've got to do it very professionally this time and record it.
I agree. I have two more questions because it's 4:10. I want to close the meeting at 4:15. So you'll ask a question before. I don't think you have.
Mark, you've got in the letter that was circulated before the meeting the proposition that you'd like Adrian Crowley appointed as administration. Now, I attended the last board meeting and we've all heard a great deal about the current finances, and I think one of the things I actually got the greatest impression of was that there were at least two and possibly more different accounting schemes going on within the organisation, which is why no one's sure actually how much money we owe, how much assets we have. How do you see Adrian's appointment as improving that situation for this organisation?
Can I interrupt you there, because I think that the meeting has indicated that you'd like to have another meeting to discuss where the MRA goes. I don't think starting at 4:12 this particular Sunday is the appropriate time. This business plan has not been adopted. It's been drafted to give you people an indication that there is something happening that's positive. But I suggest that we discuss this in a month's time at another meeting. I'm sorry, but that's really the ruling I'm going to make. Yes, would you like to?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we actually have a meeting as soon as possible to appoint some people to the board so that Damien doesn't continue to do all the frigging work himself.
I agree. Can I have a second to that motion, please? Okay, we've got about 45 seconds. Anybody against that motion? No? Right, we'll have another meeting in a month's time. We agree on a date when we have a meeting.
Not less than 30 days.
Sorry? Not less than 30, not more than 60.
Well, I mean, it has to be closer than 30 days? Further away than 30 days?
It's got to be a minimum of 30 days under.
That's notify all members.
Yeah.
Well, the sooner the better, because, I mean, Damien can't continue to carry the place on his own.
Well, he won't be doing that, but we'll...
We actually got staff employed here now.
I'm aware of that.
Last few weeks.
But the decision-making thing needs to be a shared decision-making thing, not Damien all on his own.
I absolutely agree. It's now the 4th of Sunday, the 4th of May. What's Sunday the 8th of
Just pick a name.
Sunday the 8th of June. Saturday the 14th, Sunday the 15th. Sunday the 15th of June. Sunday the 15th of June. Okay, there'll be a meeting on Sunday.
Special general meeting.
Special general meeting on Sunday the 15th of June.
So what's the terms of that meeting? Is it to appoint new board members as well as with the draft?
The terms of that meeting will be to appoint new board members.
Fill the vacancies.
And also to discuss and consider the business plan and vote on the future direction of where it goes. All in favour of that motion? Aye. Righto. I'm going to call the meeting closed. Before I do call the meeting closed, Jamie wants to say a few words. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Can't be done. The meeting will be here.
Can be here at
Here at 2:30 on the Sunday.
Yeah, you're right.
I'd like to thank you all for coming today. I tried as hard as I could to make this thing cleaner than it was. I was hoping that we could come to agreements and arrangements. The fact is, I have been left here doing most of the role, and it's only some of the good people come in here and have actually done the work of other board members who refuse to come in. So, mentioned about the situation with the accounts. I asked John McDad when we could have the books back, and he said when his final account was paid. He is an employee, and I believe that is quite a legal thing for him to do, but it doesn't help us answer your question about the account. All I can say is, in 2 weeks we generated enough money to pay a month's rent, and we are standing here 6 days a week pushing to make this place work. One thing I want you to understand, this is really important to get across. I am not running again. I was elected to do a job. I won't quit early unless it becomes utterly intolerable. I have a very loud voice, and I am very good at climbing across tables and attacking bureaucrats who attack motorcycles. But you didn't hear me today say I couldn't work with that person or another person. I couldn't work with the situation. And I want to spend the next year, 15 months, teaching people my network, how to lobby, how to use the media. I've said it before and I've said it again, and I don't want to be the business manager of this place. But honestly, the last 2 or 3 months got it to a stage where it could not possibly continue. Thank you.
Thank you all. Just before I close, just for the record, I need another 9 people to sign this because under the Constitution we need a written request for a special meeting. So before you go, a couple of people stick your monikers on that. Thank you for coming and giving up your Sunday afternoons. And I now declare the meeting closed.
Thank you.